Good evening, and thank you for joining me on Black News Tonight. I'm Marc Lamont Hill. Our top story tonight, 3 white men found guilty in the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. Earlier today, a mostly white jury convicted Travis McMichael on 5 counts of murder, plus 4 other charges. His father, Gregory McMichael, and their neighbor, Bryan, were convicted on 8 and 6 charges, respectively. All 3 face a potential of life in prison and have also been charged with federal hate crimes. The anti-blackness believed to have motivated the men in killing Arbery, as well as openly racist statements made by their defense attorneys, ignited scores of demonstrations and renewed questions about the possibility of safety and justice for black people in this country. Today's guilty verdict brings to many some sense of relief. Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, spoke after the jury's decision.
To tell you the truth, I never saw this day back in 2020. I never thought this day would come. But God is good.
Yes, He is.
And I just want to tell everybody thank you for those who marched.
Joining us now to discuss the potential impact of the trial and the verdict is our guest, attorney, activist, and political strategist, Angelo Pinto. So good to see you, my brother. Were you surprised by the jury's decision today?
I was slightly surprised. I think for me, I had the opportunity to be in the trial, be in the courthouse at least 2 days ago. And for me, I thought that we were going to see a hung jury, particularly on the heels of the Rittenhouse kind of verdict where he was found innocent. I did not think we would see what we saw today, which was guilty for all 3 men. So I was certainly surprised in that respect. But I wasn't shocked, but surprised.
Do you think that the marching, the protests, the outrage, the people showing up, did that contribute to the outcome of this trial?
I think everything had its place and played its role. I do think, when I think about why the jury decided what they did, I think the video evidence was damning in this circumstance. I think it was such a heinous act that would be hard for anyone to say that they were not guilty of murder. But I do think the attention that was given to this case played a huge impact. I think the attorneys on the ground, the activists and the organizers created a visibility around this case that I think made the country feel, and individual citizens feel, like they had to do the right thing. But I also think the video evidence was damning and showed such a heinous murder or lynching happening on video that they had to do the right thing, and they did.
It's just nuts to think that people have to be made to do the right thing as if that's not its own end, right? I mean, what does it say that you need a massive coalition, basically a movement, to get justice when a black man is murdered by 3 white racists?
Yeah, I think for me, when I think about it, and on the heels of the Rittenhouse case, and of course what happened with Julius Jones, for me, when I think about the organizing, spend time with organizers, for me, I always say, and I think it's a little discouraging that I don't think this is sustainable. The amount of effort, the amount of phone calls to get one guilty verdict, to get Julius Jones removed from death row but still spending life in prison. For me, the work is unsustainable. It causes a tremendous amount of trauma. And at the same time, I think when you hear from Wanda Cooper, Ahmaud's mother, of course, how could we not fight to see his mother feel like some accountability happened? But I think when we think about it in the larger scheme of things and in a broader context, we really can't sustain the work at this rate. And we need to create, some change in different ways. I don't think a case-by-case basis is going to get it done. And I think most folks are sophisticated enough to realize that we need real system change, and we don't have it in this moment.
What does that look like against the backdrop of a trial where it seems like 3 bad guys got caught, they got convicted? Some people would say, see, look, this thing works if you just get the right jurors and you prosecute the right case.
I think it'll be hard for folks to say that. I think, especially on the heels of the Rittenhouse verdict, I think for black folks in America, you're kind of seeing a crap game. Sometimes we get what we think we should get, and sometimes we don't. So for me, those odds are usually not with us. I think we are in a climate where we are seeing individuals who are at least being prosecuted. We are in a climate where we are seeing some individuals who are prosecuted convicted. So I think things have changed. but I think the wheels of change are too slow, and it's still causing way too much Black trauma. Way too many Black victims and families are having to deal and reel what happens when these kind of murders take place. But I understand the importance of hope, the importance of realizing that we have made some progress. But I think the progress is too back and forth for us to bank on it in this moment. And I think we need to think about, and I think many organizers and activists are, what the way forward and way ahead is. I don't think we've figured it out, but we're certainly working on it.
The day that we're, I don't want to say enjoying, but that we're certainly basking in some sense of relief today is also the anniversary of the day where the jury decided not to charge Darren Wilson for killing Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2015. So do you think that the narrative that you've painted, which is one of advancement and retrenchment, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's still one of progress. Do you think that today's verdict instills a sense of hope, that hope you talked about, in progress for America? Or will many of us remain cynical or doubtful or pessimistic?
I think both, and I think it really depends on which America you talk to. I think when white folks, from my perspective, view this outcome, I think they will say to themselves, justice was served. They will say to themselves that some white folks who decided to lynch a man did not get off. But I think for Black folks, the resounding sentiment will be that it hasn't gone far enough. The resounding sentiment will be that we've had too many cases where no one was prosecuted, or we've had too many cases where someone was found innocent after committing murder. So I think depending on the America you speak to, you will hear different sentiments. And I think the resounding sentiment from Black America that this isn't enough. We're happy it happened, but it certainly isn't progress to the tune that we'd like to see.
You know, there's a question of outcome, right, of product. And then there's a question of process. Even though the defense wasn't successful, they still engaged in vicious forms of character assassination of Ahmaud Arbery. There were racist statements made by the defense attorneys. You know, of course, our own Dre Clark caught up with one of the defense attorneys and was able to press him on it, although he didn't give us a really solid answer. And there's no solid answer to his racism against Black preachers. I mean, they were very openly using race and weaponizing race to a jury that they thought would be persuaded by it. What does it mean, even if you win the case, to have this kind of open, naked racism and a character assassination?
You know, I was thinking about that a lot today, and I was thinking about the ways in which they use these stereotypes of Black criminality openly in court, and the ways in which they talked about Black pastors and essentially Black folks who were outraged about this. And for me, one thing I thought essentially was that they were overconfident and they thought it would work. And I think they thought that jurors would say, this makes sense. This is the reason these individuals should get off. So I think it backfired. But I think the other piece, which is more alarming, but I think most folks are aware of, that these sentiments are so commonplace in the American politic. They're so commonplace in the American criminal justice system. They're so commonplace in America that most folks were not surprised. I think it was shocking to hear how blatant and how openly these attorneys would use and say some of these things, but I think we were not shocked. And I think on the other hand is that we are witnessing in many cases, I think with the Rittenhouse case and congressmen saying they're going to give him an internship and Donald Trump saying that justice was served, I think we're watching, you know, many closet racists, and we've been watching this for the past few years, really come out of the closet in ways that I think are unprecedented, but are also really them laying claim to their stake in America and their unwillingness to bend or move, even when large segments of the American population are saying things must change and we must see something different. I think there are folks who are going to hold on to white supremacy and white racism in ways to the bitter end that we're witnessing today. I think the trial exemplified it, not only with regards to the heinous act, but also to the ways in which the attorneys tried to defend the men who engaged in this heinous act by using stereotypes of Black criminality and also painting a picture of Black activists and pastors being intimidating. So, shocking, but not stunning.
Not stunning at all. We'll continue to follow this case, not just the aftermath of the verdict, but also the sentencing phase, which promises to be just as interesting, complex, dynamic, and definitely just as worthy of our scrutiny, because this thing ain't gonna go easy. Angelo Pinto, thank you so much for joining me on Black News tonight.